Hi, my name is Zach Simmons, and this is Pro Football Today. So, this show, we're going to be taking a look at new developments going on around the NFL and a little bit around the AAF. So, to be honest, this is my first attempt at a YouTube channel, so there's probably going to be a good amount of kinks that I'm going to have to work out. So, just bear with me here. Hopefully, by a few more episodes, I'll be able to work them out. So, this episode, we're going to be taking a look at two of the biggest trades we've seen in a very long time: the Antonio Brown trade and the Odell Beckham Jr. trade. So first, we're going to be taking a look at the Antonio Brown trade. So we're going to take a look at did the Steelers win this trade, the Raiders win this trade, or did Antonio Brown win this trade? So to go through the details, the Steelers trade Antonio Brown, their star receiver, to the Oakland Raiders for just a third and a fifth round pick for this season. So, was this a good trade for the Steelers? I think it's a win-lose. The Raiders have 3 first-round picks. They have their first-round pick. They also have the first-round picks from the Chicago Bears after the Khalil Mack trade. They also have the first-round pick from the Dallas Cowboys after the Amari Cooper trade. So I don't know why the Steelers didn't go for one of the first-round picks. They easily could have gotten it, especially if the Bears can get a second-round pick out of the Khalil Mack trade. Couldn't the Steelers get a first-round pick out of there? I'm guessing it had to be that they just wanted to get rid of Antonio Brown. Brown caused a good amount of drama there in Week 17. That continued on until just a week ago. So my guess is they just want to get rid of Antonio Brown and start fresh in that locker room, especially after they also got rid of Le'Veon Bell. So, lose there for the Steelers. Could be a better trade. I mean, it's Antonio Brown, one of the best receivers now, if not the best receiver now. And by the time he retires, he will be known as one of the best receivers of all time. So then, how was this a win? Well, it's a win if you take a look at how the roster is structured. So if you're going to get rid of someone like Antonio Brown, you better have a plan for the new number one receiver. And I think they had that in-house with Juju Smith-Schuster. This is the guy that got almost 1,000 yards his rookie season opposite of Antonio Brown, and then got way over 1,000 yards, about 1,400 yards last season, once again on the opposite side of Antonio Brown. This is a guy that can easily become the number one guy there in Pittsburgh, and I think has a good shot of being just as good, if not better, than Antonio Brown. Then you need a plan for someone to take over Juju's spot there as the receiver 2. And I think they have that in James Washington. Now, James Washington had just less than 300 yards. Now, that's not pretty. You don't see that and say, this guy's a number 2 receiver. But he showed some flashes in the preseason. He showed some flashes in the regular season. And remember, Antonio Brown's rookie season, he had less than 200 yards. So if Antonio Brown can make that jump, I think James Washington has the opportunity to make that jump. And if he doesn't, they did sign Dante Moncrief, who is a great number 2. Very good for the Colts after Reggie Wayne left, to have him and T.Y. Hilton there. That helped out the Colts very, very well. This last year being over in Jacksonville, yeah, he wasn't too productive, but you also have to remember and the factor of Blake Bortles. So Steelers is a win-lose. They probably could get more out of Antonio Brown, but where the team stands now, they should be about the same, if not stronger, without Antonio Brown, especially since Juju's already been favored by Big Ben. Now let's take a look at the Raiders. Was this a good trade for the Raiders? They still have 3 first-round picks. So kudos to Mike Mayock and John Gruden for not having to trade a single player and only trading a third and a fifth-round pick. Why they couldn't go for the second round beats me. But great trade, getting one of the best receivers in his prime for a third and fifth-round pick. Great trade for the Raiders. Madden wouldn't even take that trade. Great trade. And now they get the best receiver they've had probably since Tim Brown and Randy Moss. So great job by the Oakland Raiders. This is a guy that they were hoping Amari Cooper could be like, but that just couldn't happen. Now Amari Cooper definitely has a shot to do that in Dallas, showed some flashes, but for whatever reason, could not do that in Oakland over the last few years. So now they got their guy. Now they have their guy to help out Derek Carr. He had 4,000 yards, which is great. It's a good amount of yards for a quarterback, but the touchdowns were lacking. So now he has a guy he can throw those touchdowns to. This is Big Ben's touchdown guy. This can now be Derek Carr's touchdown guy. He had the yards. He needs the touchdowns. Brown should easily help him out with both. So now, was this a good trade for Antonio Brown? Definitely. He didn't want to be in Pittsburgh. He didn't like the locker room. He didn't like Big Ben as a leader. Now he goes to Oakland, where he has John Gruden, Derek Carr, and he can be the face of the relocation of the Oakland Raiders to Las Vegas. Great, great trade for Antonio Brown. He leaves where he didn't want to be to a place where he wants to be, where the locker room is good, it's stable. He has a good leader in Derek Carr. He has a great coach in John Gruden. So overall, win-lose for the Steelers. Shouldn't really be too much of a loss for the Steelers. Could have done better in the draft. But when it comes to how they're going to look on the field in September, they should be just fine. Big win for the Raiders and another big win for Antonio Brown. So now let's transition over to Odell Beckham Jr. So the details of this trade. Cleveland trade their first round pick in the middle of the first round. Trade their second, third round pick. And they trade safety Jabril Peppers for Odell Beckham. This is the kind of trade Antonio Brown should have had. But instead it goes to Odell Beckham, who's a few years younger than Antonio Brown. So first of all, let's see how the Giants did with this trade. To be honest, I think it's a big win for the Giants. Odell Beckham was a problem in that locker room, and say what you will, this is a rebuild season, and a lot of people were saying, why would you get rid of your biggest building block in Odell Beckham, especially if they're looking at a rookie quarterback, which I'm not convinced they are. To be honest, you have to worry about the locker room first. In a rebuild, you're not just rebuilding the talent on the field, you're rebuilding the culture in the locker room. This is what the Bears did. One of the first things Ryan Pace did as a GM after the draft was to trade Brandon Marshall to the New York Jets, which showed it was a little scary as a Bears fan to watch Brandon Marshall go, but looking back, it's what had happened. And same thing goes for here. Odell Beckham had to leave New York. He didn't fit in New York anymore. He needed to go someplace else. And the Giants are going to rebuild. They had to do it without having Odell Beckham. So overall, great trade. And what makes this trade even better is the pickup of Golden Tate. So Golden Tate, I believe, was the only number one receiver in this free agency class. His time in Detroit, 3 out of the 4 receivers there, he had over 1,000 yards receiving. This is a good, consistent receiver, which is what the Giants need. And in fact, if they are looking for a rookie quarterback this season, or if they're going to wait until next season and the season after, they have Golden Tate there to be a stable veteran receiver there for the rookie quarterback. So great trade. And then Landon Collins is gone. They weren't going to spend all that money on Landon Collins, so now they get Jabril Peppers with Antron Bethea behind him to help him out. Great trade for the Giants. I like what they're doing. They're in total rebuild mode, which is okay. If Gettleman does this right, I will not be surprised if they're in the playoffs 3 or 4 years from now. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly what they're going to do. Now, was this a good trade for the Cleveland Browns? Definitely. Last season, Jarvis Landry had less than 1,000 yards receiving. He's not a number one receiver. They needed a number one guy, and that's what you get with Odell Beckham. They're in championship mode, which is what Odell's been waiting for his entire career. So now they have a guy who's excited, who's ready to work, and honestly, I believe he fits in that locker room a lot better than he did with the Giants. He should be just fine. I don't see him being a problem. I see him working his tail off to help Baker Mayfield and help the Browns make it to the playoffs this season. So great trade for the Browns. Yes, you lose a first-round pick. Yes, you lose Jabril Peppers. But they are in championship mode, and I'm not sure they really could make that final push unless they got another receiver. So this definitely beats the receiving core that we thought they were going to have last season. Last season, we thought they had a great receiving core. You have Jarvis Landry, Josh Gordon, Callaway, Corey Coleman. They let go of Gordon, the trade him to the Patriots, and they trade Coleman away. And then they're left with just Callaway and Landry, and then Njoku as well, the tight end spot. Now you add Odell Beckham to that. Odell's the easy number one. Jarvis Landry, I think, fits better at number 2 rather than number 1. So this is great for the Browns. Now they have their star receiver to help out their star quarterback in Baker Mayfield, who should have another great season, especially with Odell Beckham. Now, was this a good trade for Odell Beckham? Likewise said, I think he fits better in this locker room than in the Giants locker room. This is a guy who wants to win. He doesn't want to sit around and wait for the rebuild to be done. He wants to win now, and now he's with a team who can win now. So great trade for Beckham, and he's also reunited with his former LSU teammate, Jarvis Landry. So overall, great trade for the Giants, great trade for the Browns, great trade for Beckham. This was an all-around win, win, win trade. So that's it for this episode. There's going to be another episode today talking about recapping this last week of free agency. So stay tuned to that. And I would love to hear your comments. If there's something that you found really interesting in here, if there's something you disagree about, post it, comment. I'd love to hear exactly what you had to say. So, hope you enjoyed this, and stay tuned for next time. Thank you.